if you're not on the newsletter, sign up for the freaking newsletter. It's free on my website, iamstormysage.com, and you'll get a free workbook that comes with your sign up, and then you'll be on the newsletter. So this week we talked about believing in yourself and whether or not you think that you actually believe in yourself. And I want to expand on this topic in a little bit in a different platform, in a longer form other than just the newsletter, but I want you to sign up for that because there's going to be a lot of information and a lot of things I'm going to be sending in the newsletter coming up. So please get on the list if you are not. But we're going to take some of the topics that I have covered from that. There was 8 ways that I listed, 8 actionable steps to actually believe in yourself that you need to take and that I need to take and that I have been taking. So this is just from my personal experience. So if you struggle with believing in yourself, if you struggle with holding the bigger vision of what you want to do here, creating what you want to create, if you struggle with showing up and being authentically seen and being in the space where you're viewed in your soul gifts or in your magic, in your bigness, and you want to like collapse, this is something for you. Keep listening. And I'm happy you're here. So the first thing, I'm just going to kind of just jump in. The first thing that I want to say is consistency. So doing what you say you're going to do. And I am a huge culprit of this over the years of not being consistent. And for whatever reason, it wasn't in alignment. I wasn't ready. The path wasn't aligned or whatever you want to say. Could be all reasons, it could be all very valid reasons for myself and you. But a big part of why what didn't happen in the past is because you weren't consistent. I wasn't consistent. Stopped and started. I doubted. I was like, maybe this is nothing. Like my ideas were crap, whatever. I'm not going to be able to help people. All of the stories, my art shit, all the stories that we tell ourselves. And when we start, we expect this huge amount of momentum that is going to happen, that everybody's going to see us and everybody's going to be like, oh my gosh, finally you're doing all these things. And then we're going to be, for whatever validation or numbers or whatever you're looking at, likes, follows, whatever. If you don't see what you expected when you shared whatever you want to share, if you don't see that, it's easy to collapse and say, oh, this must not be worth my pursuit. And I just call major bullshit on that. And I had to call bullshit on myself on this. And this reminds me of the scene in How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, that movie. And in that movie is just like, okay, they're playing the card game. If you've seen the movie, if you haven't, go watch it. It's fucking hilarious. But they're playing that card game, bullshit. And they call each other out, whether that they think that they're bluffing. And I would love to have this dynamic within, I actually might start this with like my friends and family and like the people that I work with. And whenever you see somebody in their sabotagey behaviors, or they're going back and trying to be smaller, or they're trying to collapse and say, oh, I don't actually want to do that anymore, it's not aligned, you're going to call bullshit. And that's like what the movie, that's how they say it. So you could do this to yourself. You can loop your friends and family into this too if you want to like have some support while you go through this. But mostly you're going to call it on yourself. Like anytime you say like, oh, I'm too tired to do this, I don't need to post this, or I don't need to, this idea isn't good enough, or whatever the excuse is, I need you to be your own bullshit meter. Like, call bullshit on yourself. And that's what I've been able to do over and over as I've continued to on my pursuit of self-expression and sharing my soul purpose and being like, no, we're anchored into this. We've committed to it. You signed up for this, before you had a body. You signed up for this and we're going to do it. Like no matter the outcome, no matter how you think or how far you think that you have to be at a certain amount of time, or no matter what kind of new metrics happen or don't happen in a certain amount of time, like you're going to keep going. Like you need to stay consistent. Consistency doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't mean that you have to be perfect every single day and do the thing every single day. It just means that you're not going to quit and you're going to stay consistent and you're going to come back to it and you're going to begin again and come back. So consistency is the first step that you're going to commit to actually believing in yourself. Now, when you go through this list, when I go through these like 8 things, you can decide whether or not you can try this on for yourself, right? Just because this is my self-belief list doesn't mean it has to be yours. You might have completely different things. You might have 5 things or 10 things that you're going to write down and create a I believe in myself list. So this is just like an experiment for yourself of these are 8 things that I'm doing to actionably say and show the universe, show myself, show source to be like, hey, I believe in myself. I believe in this creation. I believe in this mission. And these are the actionable steps I'm taking to do that. Because it's easy to say you believe in yourself, but then you feel you actually don't. Like you're banking on plan B, or you're waiting to sabotage yourself, or you say, oh, I'm going to do this, but like in a month's time you're probably not going to continue to do it. And I want to like call bullshit on that and nip that in the bud of like, no, we're being consistent. So whether or not these 8 things, you could use these 8 things as a little meter to be like, oh, if I do all these things, maybe I believe in myself or I don't. Or you can create your own list of self-belief. So I just want to give that disclaimer. Just because these are my list doesn't mean it has to be yours, but hopefully mine will be helpful for you. Okay, so the second one is, let me click over to my list. How I'm continuing to believe in myself is I'm viewing my heart vortex board every single day. Again, the intention is every single day. It does not have to be perfect, but I'll give you a little hack of why it can be every day. So I'm connecting with my heart vortex board, which is what I use as my own vision board. So like there's so many different ways you can have a vision board. I just recreated a new one for myself for 2025. And this is pictures and the classic vision board, the pictures and the image, along with values and words that are there that are going to evoke the emotion that you are wanting to feel based on having these things. So what I do is I put my board on my screensaver. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see. So this is my screensaver of like all of the things that are on my board, right? So every single day, I mean, I have my phone with me all the time. So every time I look at that, I look at it and I try to just like grab one picture, one image, or just like a second or two to just bask in that and feed that vision a momentum. Like I'm believing in this desired reality outcome vision, that because I can believe it and dream it, that the timeline of that existing is somewhere in that quantum field. Because I can envision it, I know it's out there. And because I'm deciding to act in alignment with my actions and energies and beliefs into the way that I am, and feelings and emotions, the way that I am visioning this vision, I know that it's only in a matter of time that I get to merge into that. So that is that's that. So another reason why you should join my newsletter is that when you join the newsletter, you get the free guide to make your own heart vortex guide. So the little mini guide is how to stop feeling dead inside. And that's the free workbook that you'll get when you sign up for the newsletter. And in that will be a section where you can create and design your own heart vortex board. And there's a template there from Canva I made, and you can just plop in your pictures and your words and redesign it yourself for your own board. And you can just I love to take pictures from Pinterest and, just kind of go ham with it, really get into it. So I am envisioning, so I guess boiling step 2 down further is that you are visualizing and envisioning that highest possible outcome for yourself every day, because you're believing more in what you know what is going to happen, what could happen in the best case scenario, which will be one of them, rather than the worst case scenario. So you're envisioning what you want to feel and see. You're putting yourself into that every day. And that is going to lock in those really strong self belief, because you're like, oh, I know and believe this is to be true. Okay, so the third thing we're going to do for self belief is follow through with your word with others and with yourself. Most importantly, to yourself, because that's where self trust bleeds into self belief. So, January, New Year's resolutions, it's usually a huge flop, right? We have all this momentum of like new year, new me, and I'm gonna go through this and change every single thing about myself. And then a few months go by and then you're back to doing the same things. So this is like a few things are happening here. One, we're still in winter and we're not really in like the actual nature witchy version of a new beginning, of like the new spring. Like it's not a time to really do a ton of like work to set into like intentions to change. So the alignment of the winter is off, because winter is still about rest and relaxation and going inward and hibernating and reflecting, and all that is still happening in January. So that's something. And another thing is that we just put so much momentum on one single date to say this is when everything's going to change. I'll start tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. And every time that we say that we're going to do something and then we don't, we break the trust within ourselves. We know that what we say is actually not, it has no truth to it, because we know that we can easily get out of it. So imagine every time you tell yourself that you're going to do something or going to change something, that you are saying it to somebody that like you wouldn't want to disappoint, like a mentor, a teacher, somebody you really idolize or respect. Imagine that when you say it to yourself in your head, you're saying it to them. And would you do it if you told them you were going to do it? Or would you still have the same amount of like, whatever, I'll do it tomorrow? So this is something where being true to your word and following through with your word with others is going to cause so much just juicy momentum in your life, because for one, people are going to be like, wow, she really means what she says. Like she said she's going to do that and she did it. You're going to inspire others because they're going to be like, hell yeah, like she said she was going to go get her steps today and do walks every day and she's doing it. Or she said that she was going to put her content out every day and not doubt herself, and she's doing it. And then so it's cool to see when you speak with your friends and family, coworkers, or whatever, and you're like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. It's very easy to like perpetuate like, oh yeah, we'll start tomorrow, we'll do this, and kind of like poke fun or laugh at it in a way where it's just like, oh, I said I was going to drink more water, but here am I on my 16th cup of coffee. And then we just kind of like think that's like funny. And that's not really supportive or healthy in any way. So being super aware of what you promise yourself, what you promise others, how you communicate, and then really work on keeping those promises. If you said you were going to wake up and do 10 push-ups, like did you wake up and do 10 push-ups? If you said you weren't going to snooze your alarm, like did you not snooze your alarm? And things are just coming to things that like are just in my head right now, like things that I've wanted to do in the past. So, yeah, it's important to just follow through with what you say you're going to do. And that will lead into self-belief, because you know that when you say that you're going to do something, you believe that you're going to do it, because you've given yourself that you've given yourself that evidence and that proof that you're like, wow, yeah, when I say I'm going to do something, I do it. And that's a really powerful thing to have. It's so simple. It seems so minimal. It seems like, what? How is that even a thing? But like, how many times do you say you're going to do something and then you don't do it? It's a problem we have. So, myself included. All right. Number 3. Wait, no, we did 3. Okay, so 4. Think of the best case scenario over the worst case scenario. Okay, so this is like a difficult one. I get it. I find myself in worst case scenarios often. The heart vortex board will really help you because everything on this board should be best case scenario. And what I want you to do is every time you think about the worst case scenarios, you think about, oh, this won't work. I won't actually do it. I'll never lose the weight. I'll never be able to do what I want to do. I'll never be able to travel. I'll never be. So you notice whenever you get into those thought programs, because the fear and the doubt that we experience are really strong programs that are running through our consciousness that aren't really aligned with who we actually are. Where we're actually very abundant and authentic, and what I talk about in my course about having soul sunshine. Your soul is naturally sunshine. So when we turn our sunshine back on, we get to remember, oh, that's actually just like an illusion of the game that we get to play, that we don't need to feed that worst case scenario anymore. Like we can actually just envision the best case scenario and momentumize. I don't even know if that's a word. The best case scenario. So every time you think about worst case scenarios, say, oh, we're not doing that anymore. That's not me anymore. And then insert the best case scenario. Feel into the feelings of what you're desiring to create. Feel into the feelings that you want to feel. Feel into the security and the safety and the groundedness and the abundance and the freedom and the creating and the learning and just anything that you want to desire right now. Feel into that immediately after you start going into the worst case scenarios. Envision 5 ways that the best case scenario can actually happen. So we want to override that system and say, actually, there's more evidence and we have more ideas of how the best case scenario can happen rather than the worst. And this is going to change how we operate in the world. It's going to change what moves and decisions we make. It's going to change what we're receiving from the outside world, because everything is a reflection. The outer, what's happening in our outer lives is a direct reflection of our inner world, of our inner lives. So if we're changing our inner world, we're changing our inner dialogue, we're changing our inner beliefs and energy, our outer world will be changed. It's just the law of that. Like it's just a mirror. Imagine that we're just playing in this simulation of like whatever I'm coding into myself, I get to code outside. And so how can I better code myself, my thoughts, my feelings, my habits, my my way of being, my energy? How can I code myself better to actually do the things that I want to do? Like you're not gonna I won't get into that analogy. I won't go there. Never mind. So yeah, so that's number 4. 5 is commit to creating something new rather than going back to what you know or how you've done it in the past. So create to the new vision. You already know the worst case scenario. You've already done it. You already know what you've done in the past. You already know the decisions and the habits and the ways that you sabotaged and doubted yourself. You already know how that outcome has already happened. We already did that, right? We already, for the lack of like the excitement, like you already know how that feels. You know how those days look. You know, like boring. Like you already know that. So why not challenge yourself to say, hey, we're not going to repeat the same patterns because we already know how those play out. And that's not it. That's not actually what I want. And that's why we're here now again, trying to visualize a better outcome, because that's actually not what I want to experience. So how can you just put to rest, lay to bed the ways that you have done it in the past, and how can you pivot either the way that you view it, the way that your perspective is, the way that you're like operating in your day-to-day life? Like how can you change that in order to do it differently? How can you innovate in your life, how you operate in relationships, or how you're creating, making your vision, or creating content, or putting yourself out there, or how can you innovate in the way that you can authentically express yourself in your soul expression, your soul sunshine? How can you do it differently than you've done before? Like maybe you're doing the same thing, but maybe it's just in a completely different energy and way. And it's not even a maybe, because you are at a different spot. So even though you feel like you might be in the same spot again, you're not, because you have had countless experiences and lessons, and you're never in the same spot twice, because you have all of a new level of awareness of like, oh, I know what that's like when I did that over there. So I'm not in the same spot because I didn't have that experience before. So now I have that experience. I can take that in, I can integrate it, and now I'm going to move from a space where I can feel empowered and vision the highest, best case scenario ever, and say, whoa, if I can create momentum with my energy and my thoughts to create my reality, then why not put the momentum towards the best case scenario rather than the worst case scenario? And this is why I have such issues with mainstream media and the news, because they perpetuate the fear in the worst case scenario over and over and over. Um, and then it puts us in a lower state of consciousness. And then we're like, oh my gosh, how could I even dream in this world? Because the world's going to shit. And all of this is wrong. And how could I even bring kids into the world? And how can I even do this? And it's like, no, ew, gross, ew. That's like so not it. Like, there's so much good in the world. There's so much good happening. Yes, there's also the duality of the same happening, where you're having difficult times. People are going through difficult situations. We're having not best case scenarios in the 3D physical, but like shit has to come up, like shit has to hit the fan in order for things to change. And we're experiencing that now in the collective, just as you probably experienced it in your own personal life, where like sometimes shit just hits the fan, comes up. We have massive tower moments in our life. We have dark nights of our soul. And then that is ground zero. Then we're able to build from that area moving forward, to be like, oh, okay, that all had to crumble because I had to get rid of all of that in order to build this. And that's what's happening in the collective also, is that like, what do we have to dismantle, burn to the ground, tear down, and strip away in order to rebuild in the way that we want to actually live in the 5D world, like in order to actually continue to raise the consciousness of everybody. So yes, okay, we went off on a little tangent there, but okay, so commit to something, commit to something new. All right, so number 6, speaking about my dream with 100% conviction of it manifesting. Tell everyone. Okay, so we like to keep things really tight to our chest, and we don't like to say it out loud, and of what we actually desire and what we want. One, because you are afraid of like, what if that doesn't happen? And I look like an imposter, and I look like, wow, she didn't do what she said she was going to do. How embarrassing. Or it could be out of, we hold it close because we ourselves don't believe that it could happen. So we don't even want to speak it out loud, because we're like, what if it doesn't actually happen though? So I'm not going to tell people what I want, because that again would be embarrassing, if it didn't happen. And what happens is that we like stay in this spot where we're not really allowing ourselves to communicate with the universe, because sometimes we need the conversations in order to create the momentum of what's going to be next. So like, we follow the breadcrumbs in our life, right? So we have this idea, we have this inspiration, we want to do this thing, and it's a natural thing to discuss with people what we want to do, because then from there we're able to get input, knowledge, breadcrumbs of like, oh, talk to this person. Oh, try that. Have you tried this? I want to say this is that you have to be very, use your discernment of who you're telling your dreams to, because if you're having somebody that is in scarcity, that doesn't understand, or that isn't able to hold the higher vision with you, they can kind of like shit on it. And then you have a weird energy towards it. And then it's just not helpful. So the first thing is like really make sure you know who you're talking to. You don't want to just, tell somebody that is just going to think you're dumb, because that's not helpful. But what I'm saying is that you want to, shout it from the rooftops in the spaces and places that will understand, online and communities. You have to, it's just so good to be witnessed in that vision and for other people to hold that with you. And that's also a really cool way that you can keep yourself accountable, in ways of like, hey, I'm setting out to do this really cool thing. I've never done it before, so I might suck at it for a while. But I'm setting out for it, and I want you to hold me accountable and witness me in doing it. And it helps you also stay accountable to be like, well, I told these people that I was going to do this and release this, so I better get to it. So that's number 6. Number 7, stop saying and thinking that you're in between. You are not, you are at the beginning. I am a huge culprit at this. It's very easy to say, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm kind of like in between. I'm figuring it out. But da, da, da. It's like we want to straddle both sides. We want to say that, oh, we're trying, we're thinking about it, or we want to do it and not actually doing it, because again, it feels less scary. It feels like we don't really have to totally commit. It feels like we can, it just feels like we could just not go 2 feet in. So I want you to be more in conviction with yourself, with what you're doing. Yes, I am an artist. I draw, I paint, I am a muralist. I teach courses. I am a content creator. I am a podcaster. I am a writer. I am a designer. I am good at this. And so we are taught to have like this really like uh, level of, oh, don't look at me. Like, oh, yeah, I'm good, but like, I'm not going to flaunt myself. Like, we don't want to look like arrogant or like a know-it-all or something. And so this is like a wounding for a certain select amount of people. So if you resonate with this, you know what I'm talking about. But I want to say, stop doing that, because that's not helping you. It's not helping anybody else understand your vision or trust in your vision. You have to be able to start to say, yeah, this is what I'm doing, and it's cool, and I'm excited about it, and it's going to help a lot of people, or it's going to inspire a lot of people. Period. Done. End of statement. You're not figuring it out. You have been at the beginning. You're at the beginning. The beginning can fucking suck because it's a shit show of a mess. You've never done it before. It might be weird. It might be cringe. It might be really difficult. You might feel really uncomfortable, people witnessing you in that. But like, hey, hands up. If you're not going to start, you're never going to find out. You're never going to get better. And then you're never going to actually see how it would actually turn out, in that highest possible vision outcome that you created, because you didn't start, you didn't try. So that's how I feel about that. All right. And then for number 8, our last one, do it your way. Stop forcing yourself to do it how others are doing it because it's worked for them. And this is just kind of like authenticity in a nutshell, right? So do it your way. Do it how you want to do it. We have we have teachers and coaches and mentors and people that we look up to, and creators and people that have done the things that we want to do. And so we think that we can copy and paste our path onto their path. If I did what they did, then I will get there. And that's just not true. Sometimes it's true, but most times it's not. Like, you're meant to do it your way. You're meant to express it your way. You're meant to have your voice or your creations come across in a different way. And the more that we can learn to do that, the more that we will stop like trying to fit ourselves in this somebody else's puzzle. It's like we're trying to take, okay, so you have two different puzzles, one's of air balloons and one's of a bunch of gorillas. And so you're trying to take your gorilla pieces and try to fit it into be a air balloon, a hot air balloon. And like, what? That doesn't even make sense. Why would you want to try to make your beautiful gorilla puzzle into hot air balloons? Like, you can't. It's you literally can't. Like, you're a gorilla. You're meant to be a gorilla puzzle. So that's kind of like, stop shitting on your own magic and trying to force yourself to look or sound or be like another artist or another creator or another I don't know, anybody that we hold on a pedestal. And it is so important to be inspired by those people and be like, whoa, they can do it, so I can do it. But I'm going to find my own path and way, and I'm going to follow my soul path to be able to get there. And I can listen to my own intuition and my own soul and my own nudges to be able to, and I trust that those are the breadcrumbs to follow to unlock the things that are in my highest case scenario, best case scenario. So I hope that was helpful. Those are 8 things that I am actively doing to continue my self-belief. We have gone a long way. We've come a long way over the years. And I talk about this in a lot of my videos but I don't know if I've really said it much on the podcast. I'm sure if you've been here long in the journey, I have gone through a lot of death and rebirths, right? I have renamed the podcast. I renamed myself. I took more of my soul into my body, which is what was prompted my name change. I have changed Instagram. I changed TikToks. I shut down this account and started this account. I shut down this website and started this. Like, I have gone through so many burn it down and start again. And that's okay. Like, that is the process. That is the process of self-belief. But you can stay in that self-perpetual loop of self-doubt and imposter syndrome and say, oh, it's not meant for me. And you can stay in that and keep doing that, but still desire it. So you stop it, but then you start it again because then you desire it. So when are we going to come back to the consistency? When are we going to actually just show up for ourselves day in and day out each week to do the things that we said we want to do? And that can be with doing a little creative list of like, hey, every day I'm going to try to do these 4 to 6 things or these 2 things in order to push my vision forward. The future version of myself in this heart vortex is, let's say, okay, is I have, I'll expand on this a little bit. In my vortex, one of them and one of my core values is to be fully seen by myself, by other, by loved ones, to be fully seen in my weirdness, my magic, my spirituality, my thoughts, all of it. I want to be seen for all of it. And how I'm going to do that actively is I show up on social media. I've been pretty proud of myself. I've been showing up pretty daily, but I consistently am showing up on social media so I could be witnessed. And I'm showing up in my relationships, especially I'm dating somebody now. If you haven't listened to the other podcast, but I am now in relationship. I'm a girlfriend now. And the way that I have previously hid in relationships or situationships or when I date is I'll hide some of the weird spiritual stuff that I do, because not everybody knows what a shamanic journey is. Not everybody knows like energy and talking to beings or talking with your spirit guides. It's newer. I think people are being more aware of it, but like stuff like that where I could still feel a little like, I don't know, are you gonna think I'm a total weirdo? I'm able to be like, you know what, I'm gonna be witness in this, and I'm gonna tell you this is what I've experienced in this journey and in this thing and who I talked to and da da da. So that's what you can do of like when you create your heart vortex, when you download it, then you can look at it and say, okay, what are 2 things that I can actively do daily to help that momentum, taking aligned action to that vortex board. So, all right, I want to be fully seen. I'm going to post daily and show up in all ways in my relationships, especially my romantic relationship. And then the second thing, how about, okay, I have, I envision, I envision my heart. So I have a really cool picture of a heart, and that is part of having a heart-centered morning. And this is what I talk about in my course, about how to create heart-centered mornings and how to anchor into the heart in the morning. So can I do that every day? Can I make that a daily practice? Anchor into my heart, be fully seen. So those are very kind of like active, tangible, actionable steps that you can take to create the vision, because the vision board can only get you so far. You can envision it, you can dream in it, and it's all thoughts, and it's like, ooh, how fun. And it becomes kind of airy, but if you're not making aligned actions towards that dream board, then it just becomes like a fun design that you did. And then a year later, you're going to be like, that didn't work. Well, it didn't work because you weren't focusing on the emotions and the energies of it, or taking any aligned action toward the vision that you actually want. So I think we're going to end with that. Download the free guide at iamstormysage.com. If you feel like this message would resonate with somebody, please send the podcast to a friend, a family member, somebody that you might know. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much for watching for so long. And if you want to, you can like and subscribe if you feel like it. And I would really appreciate it. And let me know your thoughts in the comments. Would love to hear some of the things that you're doing to actionably show the universe and source and yourself that you believe in yourself. So send me your list, or send me one thing that you're pulling from my list that you are going to do. So I hope you have an amazing day after listening to this, and I will see you next week.